Gotta get the gavel. Can I get a motion to call to order or approve call to order first? Call to order. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Also, can I get a motion to approve this agenda?
Aye.
I think you have to say state your name and say I approve this motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. I'm Joyce Polfus, and I give the motion to approve this agenda.
I second. Patricia Simpson second.
The motion. Discussion of the motion? No? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here today. My name is Zion Baldwin. I serve as the chair of this Education and Youth Committee. It was originally given to me last year, around this time when I first got on the board. One of my passions, one of the things that kind of got me onto the board was I was just like interested in, I guess, making an impact in my community, but really, I'm very practical. Like, I wanted to clean up my community. It was a lot of sanitation problems where I was living. It still exists now, but I was just really passionate about wanting to clean up my community. So I did a lot of different initiatives. So like I started handing out flyers, sending them up around my community. I put QR codes on each of the flyers to kind of gauge community engagement, I guess. See what people were saying about the rat problem, the sanitation problem. Put all that data in a spreadsheet. Connected with my DM here. Connected with Clarissa and others on the board. From there, I started hitting up other local politicians to kind of see what could be done. I was able to meet with the NYC Rat Czar. That was like my personal favorite part of my story. Bringing her to my community, touring my neighborhood, and just problem solving with her. So that was about a year ago. Later on, I spoke with Clarissa. She wanted me to serve as the chair of this committee under the mentorship of Hakeem Yamadi, who recently stepped down. He was the chair of this committee for a number of years. But Clarissa, wanted something new. He also stepped down, and so here I am. I'm really passionate, about community engagement, community involvement, and that's a little bit about me. Today, I kind of just wanted to introduce any new members to the board. I know there's a few new faces here, and then after that, we can kind of get into some of the logistics here on the agenda spreadsheet. I plan to keep the meeting pretty short. I don't want to take up too much time. We all have busy schedules, and I just want to respect that. So, just keeping things short and sweet and getting straight to the point is my flow. And yeah, so I guess we can start with introductions. You want to start?
Sure, that's fine. Hi, everyone. I'm Joyce. I work in the neighborhood. I am the principal of Bronx Design and Construction Academy, which is a CTE high school inside of Alfred E. Smith. And I am not a Bronx native. I'm from the south side of Chicago. However, my mission, my work has been dedicated to young Black and Brown people in the field of education. And I have been a member of this community, working in this area for 8 years now. So, in thinking about, or reflecting on the transition of the community and wanting to really help the people of the community, that's why I'm involved now. I'm really thinking about how I can go outside my school to do that, because there are some great gems in this neighborhood. And I'll keep it short. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Diaby. I live here also. I live here most of my life. I live right next to Zion actually. So I decided to join the committee because I work with the youth population at the Fortune Society. So I wanted to do something to prevent them from having to enter the justice system. And so I figured like doing case management is not enough. Like this is just the post effect of it all. So I wanted to be part of the preventative like solution. So here I am.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Calzado. I chair the Young Adults Committee, and I joined. I'm from the Bronx, born and raised in the Bronx. My dad is Dominican, my mom Puerto Rican. I had joined the community board due to drastic changes that I've seen in my neighborhood, from drug use to violence. My cousin passing at 17 years old due to violence. And now that I'm 32 and I still see those the drastically being the same, I felt like our voice is more important than we think it is. And if I can be, a leader and bringing everyone together and engaging, I definitely, took the initiative to make that happen. Especially since my dad is still here, he's staying here. He just had 2 kids, so that definitely is something that I took initiative and felt important for me to do. So, yeah.
Hi, everybody. So great to be here. My name's Christina Cover. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I live in Mott Haven. I'm new to the board. I've lived in Mott Haven now for a few years, but before that I was in the Bronx for a few years. Mott Haven and then Belmont and then Longwood, Hunts Point. Born in the Bronx, but grew up in the suburbs and then returned to be a teacher. So I am a teacher. I'm a special education teacher at the Bronxwood Preparatory Academy up on White Plains Road. I have some Jamaican food to prove it. There's a lot going on up by White Plains Road, and my family is Jamaican, so I really thought it was so special to get to work with students who are from similar cultural backgrounds. So I'm there, and I'm the literacy coordinator at the school. So I'm very interested in literacy, trying to help struggling readers, get them aligned with evidence-based, scientific aligned curriculum to try to help them with their reading. And I'm also a member of Bronx Working Families Party and the New York City Democratic Socialists of America. So I organized with those two groups and wanted to just be local and find ways to collaborate and serve in any way I can. So I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is.
Sitting a little closer. They couldn't hear you on the camera.
Oh,
Just in case you wanted to speak later on in the meeting, they need to be able to hear you.
Good evening, all. My name is Patricia Simpson, born and raised in the South Bronx. And I lived in Patterson houses over 40 years. And I'm the TA president there. I should be all those years, right? And my thing with this is that my goal is to work with the youth in the community, because in Patterson alone, there is no community center. There is nothing for the kids to have. I used to be able to use the junior high school's gym to have basketball games and things like that. So without anything for the kids to do, what do? They get in trouble. And they sit out there and they decide, well, listen, what do we want to do today? We're going to rob somebody. We're going to shoot somebody. So I would go around and I would talk to all the people, all the guys that they call the bad guys. I hate to use that word, but I would talk to them. I would always approach them. And everybody got to know me. And I started doing programs like the OSHA programs and different programs in the community. I started having basketball games for them, and they used to have shootouts every weekend. So this weekend I decided, you know what, this is going to stop. I had a basketball game at the school, and the kids weren't able to go to one development and the other development. Everybody came. I had no police were there except for the police that played. They played the kids in the community. There was no incidents, not one. As a matter of fact, the drug addicts, they all brought me food. They brought me garbage cans of sodas, juices, pizza pies. The people in the neighborhood, everybody cooked, everybody worked together. and it was a whole different atmosphere. So I continue to do those things. And I gave trips, and I still have one coming up. And that was to get the kids out and families out of the neighborhood. And a lot of them have never been outside of the neighborhood. They've never been stayed overnight. This was weekend trips. They never stayed overnight in a hotel. So this is some of the things that I do to bring the community together. I'm also a foster mother for therapeutic teenage boys because they're hard to place. Some of them I get out of prison, fresh out of prison. They ask me, "Well, how do you do it?" By the grace of God, because they need to be loved also and know that somebody is there for them. So this is my journey.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Tate. I'm not from the Bronx, but I've always worked in the Bronx, so I'm very familiar with the population. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, lived here all her life here on the Grand Concourse, and I have family that lives in the Grand Concourse, so I'm very familiar. Not only that, I am a product of the streets. Growing up in low income, the whole 9 yards, getting in trouble, so I know what it is. I work for BNS Health. I'm a program manager for our mental health outpatient rehabilitative services and substance abuse. So we are seeing a lot of youth coming and going, different stressors today. And now, even with the drugs coming in as something to soothe what they're going through. We're trying to make a difference. I personally want to make a difference. I also have a 23-year-old, and I see what he's going through, the struggles at school and being away, being a black male, peer pressure, the whole 9 yards. So I'm looking to do whatever I can to enrich the community, bring information out there, and to service our youth, making sure they know that there is a safe haven for them. There's a place to turn. They can express themselves. We can give them coping skills and a lot of different things that we can do for them than just hanging out on the street corner and doing nothing, just idly.
Thank you.
Claudia, would you like to introduce yourself to?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My apologies for being late. I was coming from Psychiatric Institute, and so it's a long commute. But I'm happy to be here, happy to be amongst you all. And I've been on the community board, I think, since 2018 or 19. I think it was right before the pandemic. I think it was 2019. And I've always been an advocate for quality education, equity in education, because I saw what education did for me. We've lived in the Bronx. I've always lived in the Bronx, and education was my pathway to where I am at now with my kids and my family. And I want this for everybody. I want all our kids to have this opportunity so that they can, whether it's through education, whether through it's vocational, whatever means, I just want our group in the Bronx, our kids from the Bronx, to have an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. Before we move on, we have some members from the public here. It would be great if you guys can just introduce yourselves and let the board know who you are and a little bit about yourself. Do you want to start, sir?
Peace, everybody. My name is Justice Lopez. I'm a son, a brother, husband, chocolate chip cookie lover, DJ. Recently moved to Mont Haven. I was an educator in the Bronx. Originally from Hartford, Connecticut. Clarissa's a dear friend of mine. This year I moved back, so I moved to not too far away from here. She encouraged me to come on back. I'm currently a third-year doctoral student. I'm at Harvard, finishing up my last year. So finishing up my comps and settling down back into settling down back into the Bronx. And my wife, she's grew up in the Bronx and she's from the Bronx, so we're happy to be back and be back home.
You were at South by Southwest Education.
I was, yeah.
I saw you there in Texas. Okay, I'm like, I recognize you. Good to see you.
Hi, my name is Diana Leonard. I used to work for an organization called Scan Harbor. So they are an organization that helps the youth and families. I'm no longer there, but I visit little organizations and different meetings just to make sure that I know what's going on in the Bronx, because I've been in the Bronx my whole life, the South Bronx. Moved away from my Haven, but I'm recently back now. And I do a lot of work with Anthony on Saturdays with the pantry, and he's always invited me to one of these meetings. So today I had the time and decided to join in. It's a pleasure to meet all of you guys, and hopefully we can collaborate in some way, shape, or form.
Hi, I'm Chris Yoen. I'm from the Columbia Journalism School. I'm a reporter there. I've been assigned to Community Board 1, and I have a particular interest in education, and so I'm here with get on the agenda, what the issues are, what the trends are. I live in Brooklyn, and I have a daughter who's in first grade, so it's a little bit about the education.
Good evening, my name is Cameron Fitzy. I'm also a reporter with the Journalism School.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Anthony Jordan, I'm the district manager to the board. Let's remind everybody that we are being broadcasting live on our YouTube page. Please silent or vibrate your electronic devices. And please remember to speak clearly and concisely and elevatedly, if that's a word, I just made it up, so that our YouTube watchers and social media watchers can catch up things we say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, for introducing yourselves. To move on with the agenda, we can discuss some of the district needs. One thing that Clarissa wanted me to highlight in this meeting was the resources that we have currently for special education students, i.e. autism, learning disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. So Clarissa wanted me to highlight this because she wants to figure out different ways that we can give students with special needs, IEPs, resources that they need in the community. I myself, I teach a 12-to-1 class right now. And so when it comes to providing resources for students, I believe personally that in order for students to be successful, teachers have to be set up for success themselves. I think that giving teachers the resources and just like everything they need, all the materials they need, from the jump, I think will be really helpful for making sure that our students are successful. Because if I don't have what I need as a teacher, then I have to go through multiple channels to get things, which takes time. So I firmly believe that the teachers have to be set up for success because they're with the students, the majority of the day, all day, in fact. So I guess that's something I've always kind of thought, at least since beginning my short career in teaching.
How does this work?
So I'm gonna jump into the chair. Definitely start off on the right track, and so let's explain the district needs piece. So we are all at this community and around the entire borough, the Bronx, entire city of New York. We're on what's called district needs statement, and what that means is that each of the community boards and each of these committees identify things that they are interested in putting forward to the full board to pass that are going to be concrete capital or expense needs that they think the city council, the borough president, and or the mayor should be funding. So that's a FYI. I'm sorry, the chair is texting me in the middle of this, but what I wanted to say is that what the chair is going to ask you all to do is to go around to talk about in a specific area around youth and education. What are some things that you have as professionals, as folks who live and work in this community? What do you understand are issues or items that we need to be identifying as a committee that's going to pass out this committee to be able to go to the full board to be part of our general district needs and assessment for capital and expense dollars on an education and youth service level.
I guess my question to then is, do we respond to this first need, this first suggestion around special education, or are we creating a space to just talk about different district needs as it relates to young
So
people?
you can comment on each other's. It's both. So you can comment on each other, and you can identify today, and this is an ongoing process into October. So we're starting now in September. It has to pass at least by October, but it's going to be an ongoing discussion between each of the committees to try to determine what those needs are.
The official district
needs are, and they should come out at a district or committee level to determine. Again, those things have to be passed by the full board. So it's passionately talking about, more playgrounds or opportunities around, like the chair mentioned, around resources for special education, especially around autism or other learning disabilities that have been identified in the public education, charter education, program education systems. Looking at those different things, and we have oversight of DYCD, to Department of Juvenile Justice Board, ACS, and those issues. So it's having a very passionate conversation, as the chair talked about, around those things that you have all identified. Some of you are new to this committee.
Yeah.
Most of you have been on this committee for a while. And so and all of you are professionals alike. So yeah, I'm sure that there are things that there's no too crazy or too minute issue, but it should be generally this coming out, this what they are. And then those conversations are bigger and broader in September and October meetings. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean,
I just didn't know how to
you might want to be prepared. I don't know if you want to be prepared more or whatever.
No. I just didn't know how one contributes to the conversation. That's all.
I'm open. You guys can jump in, and speak when you need to. It doesn't have to be super formal.
All right. Can I say that a need here in the South Bronx, in my area? I don't know if this goes along with it, but I recently had I call it the Forgotten Ones, and I had a event for the autistic kids in my community. And I had two events, one was smaller, one was much larger. Reached out to all the different organizations and all, and the Congress people. We had it at my community center, and so many people, parents came out with their kids, and it was different rooms, and we had it set up for the different needs of the autistic kids, right? Because they all have different needs. Some like it silent, some like playing with this, some like doing other things. I was learning as we were going along. And it was me and another one of the presidents in the area. And what I found out was that there were so many parents that was so happy to see this, because they didn't know half of the information that they received, and that they were ashamed of their kids' condition and whatnot. They didn't know how to go about looking for the type of information and the needs for their kids. So this was one way. I want to do another one, because, and they was asking, that's fab, when you're going to do it again, when you're going to do it again. But it was just surprising how so many kids in the community, because, and I call it the Forgotten Ones, because we have events, and none of these kids are there in these events.
You said the kids are not at the events?
No.
For the children.
Yeah, the majority of these autistic kids are not at our events.
But the parents are.
The parents may be there, but the children aren't there, and I don't know if they're, they have the autistic kids because they're not with them. And I didn't know the many parents that was in the surrounding neighborhood until the event happened. So I think that's one of the needs. We need to have, more events where, as the parents in our community will know where to go and to get help for their children.
And I want to jump on that because we just recently did something similar to that where we brought the parents together and we had an attorney come out and speak to them about the IEP and the process and their rights. And I think that's something we need to do is to really educate our parents on their rights, how the process is, that they don't have to take this or that, and also to give them a space to share with like-minded people, individuals. They don't have to feel ashamed of what's going on with their child or not. And the bonding is there. And I think, and they're the first teachers for their parents. I was a 12-1-2 teacher myself in the Bronx. And so I know the need. They're just fed up. Just with the normal things, then you have to deal with everything else. And the stressors there, right? And then you're trying to get this child in school and do the right thing. And sometimes they feel judged, even at an IEP meeting, or they don't understand what you're doing with my child. So I think it's so important that we speak with the parents and bring them into what do they need, because they're the ones who ultimately are serving their child who we're trying to help.
Absolutely.
So I want to interrupt. I want to drill down on that because again, we have to talk about exactly. I think she touched on it, and what I understand what you're saying is definitely important that we may not have classrooms or programming or activities that speak to students who have autism on different spectrums. So
that's just one.
I'm sorry.
That's just one.
I'm just trying to figure out because we have to identify like a concrete something. What is we as a committee or this committee saying we should be funding so that it passes on to the next level. So I know that the idea is definitely important, and I get what we're saying what we should be doing as a future perspective thing for the committee. But I want to talk about exactly district needs assessment. What are we saying should be funded and allocated?
Okay, you can bring in equipment in the parks and whatnot in the community for these kids. You know, they don't have.
We should create more play space for in our schools or in our parks for
in
young
the
people
schools and outside of the schools.
I think in the neighborhood. Play space. I think it just needs to be more available access to the schools. They got to be open on the weekends. Like these large schools with all the space, they got to be open.
But you need it outside also. You know, people bring their kids. No, I'm saying kids bring their kids outside, swings and, you know, the things that they need in the community to make them a part of the community, feel like they're a part of the community.
So I'm actually thinking of two. I guess I have two questions. One, the district need, we're just going to focus on special education, or are we also inviting other district needs that could be?
Yeah, it's broad. That comes out of education and youth committee. Okay. So this is one area that she's touching. I'm just trying to get a point.
I highlighted this for the
got it
share
because I have some ideas around that too, but just thinking about like the different buckets, and I was actually wondering what are like the overall goals for the committee. You know, in the sense that maybe we could address the district needs based on what we're trying to accomplish within this season. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that's something I wanted to come up with you guys as a team. My goals that I'm thinking of are really in line with what the chairwoman has, which is just bringing more youth into this space to hear exactly what they're saying. Because we can come up with ideas all day, but then we need to know what they are saying because it impacts them. That's all I have right now for that.
Got it. So I'm wondering then too, how, and thinking about a district need, how can we facilitate and create these different spaces or environments that would attract the young people within this community, right? For them to begin to feel empowered about what's happening in their spaces. So even if you're talking about a young person who has an IEP, you know, providing the resources or supports for them to be able to understand what the IEP says and how they can prepare for the meeting and how they can advocate for themselves. Or if it's a matter of just thinking about how we're going to rally to have different community spaces open so that we can have events and tournaments, like community-driven opportunities that bring about fun that would then maybe inspire and lead to more engagement.
Right.
And I'm really not trying to dominate this conversation or anything, so please let me know.
Because the
like,
purpose is to bring in the funds, because we need the funds in order to do anything.
But it's like we gotta zero in on what we're trying to do and what the goal is.
I'll add, just really as a special education teacher, just, underscoring the importance of this conversation and what might be possible. Everything's dead. Phone's dead, computer's dead, but there's an organization, I think it's Include NYC, if anyone's heard of that organization. I know they do special education advocacy work. They talk to parents about IEP rights and the rights they have in the room, and if you don't see this in your documentation, you can sue and this and that. I would totally highly recommend maybe we advocate for some Include NYC workshops or something that can come uptown and provide some, because I know a couple folks in that space that, love to advocate for parents. So I think that's the name of that org. And another thing I think I'd raise in the literacy side is there's a great school in the area called the South Bronx Literacy Academy. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It was founded recently by parents that literally sued the DOE because they weren't getting that special education dyslexia, like really intensive support. And so they went through it, but they just opened the South Bronx Literacy Academy. And I believe it's the first public school in the country specifically for students with language-based learning disabilities. So even walking down Third Ave or walking down in Mont Haven, you see like flyers. They're trying to make sure people know that, if you are struggling and your child is struggling, please know, I went to a training, they have private school teachers coming in, training alongside them, they take it very seriously. And District 7, I think, is the only district out of the whole city that saw increases in their reading scores that this past, something like that, because of the work that they're doing. So maybe we can help them promote out here to get more young people enrolled. And then one last thing I'll say, I know, of course, that Chairwoman, you mentioned voter registration. I'm very interested in voter registration. I know it's a little separate, but if we had young people in the Bronx turning out as a voting bloc, they could really intervene and bring more progressive and more energetic we have great elected officials, but bringing more young people out front, because often in the Bronx, voter turnout is so low. So just thinking about ways young people can get engaged, and NYC Votes has a lot of engaging videos and events for young people that's nonpartisan and helps them to get involved. So those are a couple things on my mind. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to answer your question and let me know if I could dig deeper. Every year, the New York City Community Board, 59 boards get together to do what's called needs assessment. They're identifying the funding priorities for their district. But the chairs ask for each of the committees to give what those priorities in an open discussion about what their priorities are and their specific issue areas. When you selected your committee, there was a description of what areas that each of the committees or this committee oversees. So what this is just a general discussion that talks about what the priorities or district needs will be from this committee, and then it goes further into the full board. There's a conversation that's going to happen over time that's going to come to September to October. So the goal is today is to dig deep about what those priorities may be, whether it is one of the things that I think the committee chair talked about was about resources that are specifically speak to the needs of young people, usually who have an IEP, kids or autism on different spectrums, and how our education system, charter, public, and parochial, have the resources to be able to help in those instances. I think that Ms. Simpson tried to touch on that there is not a lot of that resources to help work with those young people and sensitivities, and either inside the school building, but also out in the playground. And so what I'm getting from, and if I'm wrong, that we should fund the what this committee has to come out. What I'm hearing is that we should fund more in our playgrounds, ability for kids who are on a spectrum or autism or facing other learning disabilities to have the ability to have public play. And our schools should be more equipped to be able to also have those sensitivity rooms, I think they're called, where that's happening. And that's where we're at. And then other ones just building on this, any area from education to youth that has each member on your own self, identify them, and then that comes out. And I don't know if the chair wants to be recognized. I'm not being the chair, so it's up to you.
So just to jump in, and I know that we've been talking about like having, what are the priorities? I would love to lean on the educators and the leaders who are doing this work in the school to figure out like what's happening this year. What are the goals first for the year? Right, you guys are directly in the schools. What are the goals? Disabilities, students with disabilities, and students on the autism spectrum. Like, I think that is separate and apart because we want to know, one, what are the goals for this year in education and in the schools in our district, but also like we know that Jacqueline Thomas, who's a parent and she's on the board and she's an advocate for her son who has autism. One of the things that she's expressed is how she has to go to Jersey, right, to do anything that has to do with like sensory activities, or our community just doesn't cater to that. And so we're thinking like, should we push the city and our electeds to fund our park, maybe renovate one specific park in an area that is inclusive, right? So that's one idea. And so, not to really dig deep in, because I understand that like there are things that schools can and can't do based on like who they serve, right? At Dream, we have children with special needs, but to a certain, we can only service to a certain limit. We can't service everyone with special needs. And so I don't know exactly how DOE does it.
I can share.
And like,
I work with I can share.
Right. So like, welcoming all of that, right? So while yes, district needs are due in October, this is a lengthy conversation, right? So yes, the ideas, we're gonna circulate these ideas, we're gonna email if you're gonna go home today and be like, you know what? I thought about this idea, I wanna put this up. But really, like, I think our chair of ed here is trying to just gather the information. This is all new, it's a new process. And so at least to new members and to some of the board members who are here, I'm still learning the process myself. And so we just want to really dig deep and lean on those educators who are in the room and know. But also, like I heard Ms. Pat online, I was on the YouTube listening in, and Ms. Pat hosting activities, right? Like, just how does that all connect? Joyce, I see you want to say something. I welcome.
So I was actually thinking about, Ms. Pat, what you mentioned about a space for young people to be able to have fun, right, safely. And it was like you used to have these events within your house, but then the access to the neighboring school cut off. And I was just thinking about what are students doing from 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, and like trying to create safe spaces where they can engage and play, and some sort of like constructive or extracurricular activities in their neighborhood, right, with other students that go to different schools, but be safe while they're here, right, so that they're not out on the street. And I was just thinking like, well, what could that look like, in terms of where that is in the middle of the 3 neighborhoods, or like what would that call for in order for us to have that space where we can also leverage the partnerships that already exist without having to spend additional money, but just having a solid location and to be able to do the different.
And we also have to look at the different ages also. We have to take that in consideration too. The young ones and the middle age and the older ones. So we have to include all of that into it. Now they're supposed to be fixing up, supposed to be having the park fixed up, the basketball court on the back park. And they're supposed to be putting in a little space for the autistic ones, right? But it's not going to be a big thing, but it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a start. So that's like the start, and then like for the younger ones, that's like an educational start, because just like preschool kids, they learn by, touch and feel and things like that. And these kids will be doing the same thing, and they'll be doing it also on the outside,
Like a sensory.
Exactly. And then you're including them also in the neighborhood with the other kids. So everybody, you can get used to seeing these kids out there, without mimicking them. And, making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of like middle school, high school, who may not need the parental, who may not be under parental supervision, but them having somewhere to go, especially if they don't have the resources to have a job or have working papers. Well, what could they be doing from that 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 space?
And that's important because you have kids out there that'll turn them out. You know, and we don't want that. We want them to be able to fit in and to know, you know, that this is not what we want. This is not what I should be doing. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, these things in our community, and we got to let our leaders know that this is what we want. You're not doing enough for our neighborhood. You're not doing enough for our kids. And we need to, what are you doing with all of this money? You know, bring that money in our community and let us see what you're doing with this money for our kids, you know, and then you'll see better kids rather than, you know, label, oh, they're shooting here, they're doing this, they're doing that, you know, and it'll be, you're touching all the kids in the community.
I also wonder what if, thinking about like the financial need of some, you know, young people and whatnot, if they were to work towards a stipend, where they're doing something that's community based, but working towards a stipend, like over time to engage and pour back in. I don't know if that's like.
So as professional educators.
I know that I came late. Did everybody introduce us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how many educators do we have in the building right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
So is there a way that y'all can write up something like what we're talking about, you know, so that it can be presented to?
Yes, absolutely. And
you know
I
what I'm
think-
saying? To our leaders, exactly,
Yes.
letting them know that this is important in our schools and outside of our schools.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, I took some notes on some points, and also for the sake of moving on with the agenda, the four points I have here, if we could just take like a quick vote on that, and then I'll submit some sort of write up for whatever we choose, to be passed to the full board for some sort of funding. So what I heard first was supporting the South Bronx Literacy initiative.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
we could partner with them and support them with some sort of funding for what they're doing.
Yes,
they're working
they're working
directly
hard.
with autistic and special needs children.
Definitely.
2, permanent space for community access for events. 3, this is my own personal one, but just funding for teachers, the teachers that are teaching the special needs classrooms. If they had the resources they need in the classrooms, then they could do a lot of that sensory-based management during the school day. And then last, funding permits for, like Clarissa said, Chairwoman Clarissa said, parks that have sensory-based activities so families can stay local. If we could just like raise our hand, I'll say one of the 4 points.
I don't even think you have to vote on it. I think we just keep those as part of, that's a good start, just to have 4 of those points.
Exactly.
And we'll probably continue to add, and it's something that we will introduce to the full board. And then eventually, like I know you spoke about Include NYC, you have advocates for children. There's a lot of organizations that do the work in terms of know your rights when you have. I also want to add, like, there's ways that we want to make sure we're conscious of like the language that we use around students with disabilities, autism. So also, if we can get like something that maybe has a list of like what the terms are, right? What we want to stay away from. We don't say this, we say this, right? So if we can get that for the community board so members know. And also, like, I think that's something that as a community board, as a youth and education, we could also inform the larger community about that stuff too, when it comes to like students with special needs.
I just want to add on.
And I added your point as well to my list. Funding youth employment opportunities.
Nice.
Real quick though, so I was a math teacher, I'm a school teacher way long ago, but I do have special education teachers, and you all are so overworked. The amount of work that you have to do, the responsibility, it does not compare. And you're in the same pay scale as someone who does not. So I was even wondering too, what could come out of that to maybe like a support group for teachers who specifically our special education teachers or educators, because the work is not easy. And then also, I think Ms. Pat, you had mentioned this too, or Tate. Joanne, you had mentioned resources for parents. I'm just thinking of like creating safe spaces to empower parents about the access and trying to kill the stigma that's related to special education, so that we can, so that young people can have like a chance and be on that platform of being able to access. So I don't know how much money that requires, but I was just thinking of like more of like support groups within the community to get people.
Use this space for literally exactly what you're talking about, bringing teachers from different schools to do exactly what you said. But for the sake of moving on with the agenda, I want to move on to next. We have the Department of Cultural Affairs. They have a presentation in October. So could you just speak a little bit on what they do? I don't think it's going to be a long.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a long point to make. Thank you. So we all know that we had a presentation from the Administration for Children's Services that oversees the juvenile detention facility early before the summer break. And they talked about the expansion of, because of raise the age, the expansion of the juvenile facility. Horizon was right here by the Burger King on 149th Street. And also, and the board passed a resolution to provide letters of support so that young people who are not sleeping in unconventional spaces now will be part of that expansion project that ACS had passed. So now the Department of Cultural Affairs wants to be able to do an arts installation mural at the site, and it's still a city-owned site, so they have to come to this committee in October because the city-owned building to get permission to do the art installations. They want to come and do a presentation and hopefully get a lot of support from the full board, but to come to the presentation from at the committee level in October. So the chair just wanted me to make you guys aware to stay tuned in October for that presentation done by the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, who will be leading that effort.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Cheryl.
So that's happening on what day?
In October committee meeting.
So
because what's going to happen, I'm not sure if this was announced, but the committees are merging. Is that announced? So you'll have youth and education, young adult, and then you'll have Stephanie. They're both chairs, which they will be co-chairing. So we're combining the committees. And so next month, we also have Vote NYC presenting to the committee, which will be doing like a training on getting the vote out, specifically with young people. We can register our young people as early as 16 now. And so by 18, they'll receive all the stuff. They won't even need to go anywhere. They'll just get all their paperwork, their voter ID, and be able to do that. But they'll be here on 10/10. So I'm assuming that's...
So we'll be the second Wednesday. I'm not sure the exact date. It probably is 10/10.
But that's that'll be right.
It's gonna be combined.
Oh yeah, also that same day we're combining it.
Yeah.
As long as we have enough time, I'm willing to have both come and speak. Next point on the agenda, we just wanted to make you guys aware of that. But
I'm sorry, you said 10/10, but 10/10 is Thursday.
So it's
10/9, right? Wednesday, or no?
What's happening is that because we're merging the
it'll be on Thursday on Thursday.
So now
it'll only be Thursday for October, and then we'll go back to the Wednesdays every month. So next month it will be on a Thursday, and then we'll go back to, it'll still be merged, but it'll be on the Wednesday.
Okay.
We wanted to pick a date for visiting Horizons, the Juvenile Detention Center. I believe we wanted to come up with something, relatively soon, within the next month, 4 to 6 weeks. I should have some availability for sure next month, either prior to the next committee meeting or right after. But I just wanted to know what kind of days works with you guys. I'm not sure if we can go there on a weekend. Would that be allowed? Are you sure the
It's all open. It's open for us to offer dates.
I think weekends work for me.
Yeah, weekends work. If
How about-
we're going earlier.
So for those who are new, so again, going back to our ACS juvenile detention facility visit that happened before the summer break, the ACS commissioner came and again talked about the expansion, and this committee talked about their request to visit this space and to see it in operation. In the confines that they are allowed to, because there is some confidentiality issues. So some spaces that probably is to see how the facility runs and to get it for those who are visual learners. So we asked the commission to schedule a date to be able to go and visit the actual juvenile detention facility. I've gone. I don't know if anyone else who's been part of the board has ever visited the facility. So for us, because again, for us to make decisions about the space, we want to make sure you get an opportunity to see it in person, and so that the commissioner is willing to offer that opportunity for board members who have the time and availability to go and visit the space. And so, if you can provide that those dates to the office and to the committee chairs, so that we can coordinate to some dates that work for majority members of the committee, so they can make that visit happen as he promised.
Can we get a doodle out, everybody?
I think that works.
We'll send a doodle and like everybody can select.
But that's right. So we'll put some dates that likely work. Right, so the poll the majority.
Is it most
Like
likely?
I mean, we got.
So Doodle is a app that you use.
No,
And I poll,
yeah, no, I mean, but
you get the highest amount. I don't know, chair.
no, I was saying we could probably. I mean, Saturday. I mean, I'm pretty sure it works during the week.
What I would like to do is have everybody, like not just youth and ed, but it should be the full board
The full board.
who's invited to that. So what the chairs can do is like maybe come up with a certain amount of whatever days, look at the calendar and say these four, add it to the doodle, and then let everybody decide what works best. And you see whatever day is the majority, that's what we'll go with.
Are you guys looking to go over there?
I'm sorry. Before people, I don't know.
I was just gonna ask, are you guys sending a doodle? Do we need to create?
I'll send it once you guys figure out the dates. Then I'll send the doodles out to majority.
Or like
Who else would I recognize? Go ahead. What were you gonna say? It's because she was talking
I
to
had a question.
Oh, I was wondering, are you guys looking to do this in September or October?
the sooner the better.
Okay, so how about the next 4 Saturdays? We pick one of those Saturdays.
So you've already committed to a weekend.
I think it works best for me. I know everybody in here is.
I think we give weekend and weekdays. We gotta give, yeah. Let's
And
have
then-
a weekend and weekdays because.
Okay.
One time.
And then my other question would be, are they offering an evening option, or this needs to be during the day?
That's my thing, because if we get off super late, then it's like I don't know what the option might look like.
So you don't know if.
It's so likely during the day, during the 9 to 5, likely during the day.
It's likely not gonna be Saturday and Sunday, to be realistic. It's a city agency. So we wanna be realistic that
Okay.
the tour will likely
I don't know
probably
if there's
be.
any, because we will have to take off for that.
So, right,
Yeah.
but again, full board, right?
Okay.
Who can be there, can be there.
Okay.
Who can't be there, can't be there, right? And that's okay, right?
Okay.
I think we send the doodle out. We can even add a Saturday, right? See if that works. But we also want, DM, we also want to know if we can have a Saturday, like can we ask them, are you guys open to that? And also, is there a rush on us having to do this walkthrough?
It was a request made by the chair of the committee early before summer break. So
By Zion?
Yes, he was here.
Was the survey, it must have been, we probably did it during the time that they were presenting it. And where we were seeing how big it was, how beautiful it was, and I think they wanted us to see if we wanted to add more conditions or more rooms. What was it that it was?
We're wondering what we're gonna do
Yeah.
with that, a mental health facility.
The mental health, because they didn't have enough rooms or something like that.
Right.
So they wanted us to go so we could see and basically lay out conditions.
When we voted on it, we voted yes?
We actually.
So and they already started construction.
They're done in phases. Yes, the
There are
first part.
phases. They're already
Phases is
at the
done.
beginning phase.
Yes.
We have to go back because I don't think so.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because what I also want, if it's not an emergency to do the walkthrough, right? Then we have some leeway where like maybe we could play around with
Let me email it and talk
Yeah,
speak to it because we want to be mindful that as I think as time goes on, you get more people, and you have less opportunity to see more things. So that's why I'm thinking that the time was of the essence while they have the opportunity to be able to allow us to see as much as possible.
Yeah, we should be allowed to see whenever we want if we are the community board. That is the standard. Like we gotta let them know.
I feel like also we should do it with like urgency in
Some
my
respect
behalf
on
because I feel like if we concerned about the building and what they're bringing into that building, we should show that we want to see it.
Yeah.
Like we should definitely
Show
and
up.
then if you're speaking about it and when they're coming over and we from what I remember, I didn't like the way the design of the building because it was the most nicest building in the entire district.
It was the nicest building?
It was beautiful. And I felt like, what they designed, it was just too much. And where I know for a fact, kids is gonna pass by and say they wanna go into that building.
Wait, we're talking about the building that already exists there.
So
They're just adding the top.
Yeah,
no,
they're
they're doing
extending.
a lot more.
They're not changing the.
They're
the
extending.
There's some extension. There's some extension. So I don't want to verbatim about what the additions are, but what I understand is they're adding more recreational facilities. They're building more on top. They're doing a lot more that adding buildings and building on top of some buildings.
So can each member get
this committee's received it? I can send it again because this committee passed it.
Has everybody? No, they're new members here, so everybody should have it. So everybody can have that.
I think we
before and again, figure out what day works best. Ask them if it's Saturday, but in the meantime, let's get the doodle out.
Right.
Okay. So I guess we could choose dates within the next 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, I don't know, maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we could opt for a weekend date if available.
Another question. It won't be on a Thursday, it can't be, because we're having meetings those days, Wednesday.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. So
those 2 days are off Monday.
Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just to give some sort of leeway and option space. As far as that point, I think we can move on with the agenda. I guess planning some sort of event for the rest of the year. Stephanie, this is supposed to be your committee, the young adults. You guys are supposed to host a game night over the summertime. I guess you got to bring on to me now. Is that my
committee working together?
Young adult is what age?
I guess 18 to 26.
Yeah,
right?
young adults. I extended a little bit because I'm 32.
18 to 26? 18 to 26.
It's probably should be extended.
At least 30.
Absolutely. But I feel like this is something that we can talk about one on.
Yes. We have to get
To move on with the agenda, is there any old business that we should recognize?
Wait, I'm sorry. I know that now that the committees are merging, but do you then also have district needs for young adults, or that's not on the table?
We can probably talk about that this week. I've spoken about like the lack of resources that we have as the young adults.
So
when it comes to my committee.
Your committee meeting is tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
So this month y'all separate, but next month we together.
Yeah, so we got the full board meeting on the 25th.
Got
They're gonna vote the bylaws in.
Okay, you all did say that.
So
Got it.
we attend tomorrow also, or?
If you're part of young adults.
Okay.
And has everybody received bylaws?
I believe I have.
Yes.
Yes.
New members?
Everybody should be.
It's an email, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's there. It's there. I don't delete no emails. Anybody need to pull it up.
I know. That's what Chris says sometimes.
That's why I gave y'all my job.
Nothing we're just talking about here.
Anything else? No, I think that's all I have. Is there anything anybody else, wanted to add? Yes, Chairwoman, and then Ms. Joyce.
Just like a round robber, I just want to get an idea of what is the sense when you're sitting at this, right? Like, what do you want to get out of the Youth and Education Committee, right? What is it? What are you guys, what's your idea, right? You came today, you saw it even from new members. So welcoming, like, what are your ideas for the Youth and Education? I want to say hi to Justice, who does amazing work and is an educator. People familiar with Justice and Justice's work. But like, to have you join us, I'm super excited about you being a part of the board as well. Just thinking about like, this committee historically has been very like not active, right? Prior to this last year where we've been trying to get it off the ground. Education is huge in our district. We have the most charter schools, we have District 7 schools, we have parochial schools. And so in my mind, people should be at the table, right? This should be probably one of the packed rooms of all committees that we do have, because education is important. And so for me, and I brought this to the DM and to the chair about like, how do we have legislative breakfasts or breakfast, or do we invite our legislators here to talk to them and to kind of grill them about what's happening in education? What are we doing? What's your ideas for this committee? Like, this is not a committee, and none of our committees should be where people are just talking. We're just here to hear information, but like action driven, right? What are we doing, right? What's important? What are we doing? How are we getting it off the ground? So just want to go like around and like figure out like, hey, what is that? And even our public members will jump in.
Absolutely.
Anybody can start.
I'll go. Just, why not? Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad, and I sincerely apologize to Mr. Chair that I was late and was stuck.
No problem.
This is not relevant, but let me explain. Today is the significant day, 23 years before the terrorist attack descent. And this is the day we should remember, and we should be united together and move forward. Even though it is not related, but it is relevant, and it is relevant. We are concerned people here. Thank you all for this one. And the other thing, Madam Chair mentioned, what we get at the year committee, what we get our education committee. In regards to that, I'm totally convinced we need to engage more people, including our elected officials, including educators, surrounding communities. People are starving to join with us, join with the people, vote like this sense of resources that we have. Let's work from our own behalf to invite people and be engaged with them. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you all.
Thank you. Definitely thinking along the same lines, and to what you said, Chairwoman, I imagine a world where these meetings are packed with young people who feel like they can make moves here and engage. And I know Bronx WFP and DSA are both interested in youth turnout in elections, because I think young people, I think of even my cousins living in the Bronx, 18 to 25, 20, feeling like, well, I don't know what a primary is. What does it matter if I go out and vote? But they can really intervene on some critical elections and make the establishment a bit afraid and have to listen because of the way they're going to move. So I think it'd be amazing to collaborate on some really focused voter registration work. And then the other thing for me is literacy. It's definitely literacy, trying to help people, because, when we think about juvenile detention centers or prisons, the school to prison pipeline is so evident and clear. And we have Black and brown students disproportionately being put in special ed services. Maybe they just never got the right instruction and they're being cast out of the class. I see it every day. Luckily, I'm at a great school, but I see the ways that kids end up on these tracks without even realizing it. And by the time they get to high school, for many students, they've gone through a lot. So thinking about that, thinking about partnering with South Bronx Literacy Academy, parent workshops, even tutoring sessions for kids in the neighborhood who can't get to that school, like really being strategic and trying to, I think you mentioned, not recreate your name again?
I'm Joyce.
Joyce, yes, like you mentioned, Joyce, not recreate the wheel, but use pre-existing connections and relationships to just build together and build power together. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I'm the type, I don't like to bite off more than I can chew.
Yeah.
I like to just do small practical things that just make sense. I'm for everything you said, but I guess one of my main things is just bringing more young people into the space. I've grown up here. I know lots of young people that I can bring into the space just so they can hear, what's going on. Just give me 1 second. Just bringing them into the space and doing something small for them, such as just registering them to vote or helping them send emails to, the councilman or councilwoman.
What I would like to see if us come together to develop some real goals of what we want to accomplish throughout, again, the season, this term. Reflect on what the committee has been able to do and build on that. But also, I would like to push you in thinking about how can we be even more radical, not just the voter registration, but let's set some targets. If we talk about wanting to increase participation at the committee, can we commit to bringing one person with us at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Really being intentional about the level of participation. So setting goals in terms of how many people we want to be here by November, then by February, then by April, then applying to be a part of the committee for the next season, stuff like that. But then also big picture goals that we want, and then creating benchmarks so that we can see how well we're doing. What do we need to shift? What partnerships do we currently have? If we're saying that we want to establish at least 20 more, where are we with that? That's what I want to offer.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you.
And also to create a space or foundation for our youth and young adults to be heard, that we can pour into them, give them opportunity and resources that they can be successful. That there's an alternative to what they see out there. Again, I'm big on including the parents, trying to help them to help their children too.
I would like to add on, one of the goals that I have is to be able to provide, at least work with them, or to provide more resources for the young adults, to prevent them from having to get bored and going around and joining gangs or getting involved with nefarious activities. And oftentimes we know with the increase of the stop and frisk, they don't even have to be doing anything. They can just be searched, and oftentimes they have bad interaction with police officers, and that pushes them to do even worse things. So I'm hoping that we can have spaces for them to see themselves outside of being basketball players, rappers. Because I work with them and ask them, what do you want to do? What do you see yourself doing in the future? I want to play basketball. I want to rap. They'll rap, drill rap. So just giving them other perspective of where they could end up.
That's the goal that I'm looking at also, as they can be comfortable knowing that there's other avenues for them other than, like you said, that they'll be able to, they don't have to be afraid to want to do this and want to do something different, and to get more involved in the activities in their community, like the DA and the council members and whatnot, so that they can learn, about their community through them. If you go and you start volunteering here and take what you know from the streets and turn it into this and start volunteering in these offices, you will learn more about yourself and your community and how to become more involved in your community. That's what I want to see. I also want to see those that that's not in school and they're afraid to return to school. I want to see them back in school to be confident enough to go back to school, and get that education, that push that they need so that they can be a better person in their community, because our kids are very skillful.
That's it. Talented.
Mr. Chair, I will commit to bringing at least one person to our next meeting for sure.
Oh,
I can definitely commit to that.
yeah, invite some people and
Definitely invite some people here.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like what it could, what are the possibilities around, you know, even like the space, like hosting meetings in different like spaces in classrooms and different schools and communities, and like going to people. When I say most people like coming here, so like what would it mean to like host a meeting in a different space or place where we would like to get young people engaged, or parents or adults or elders, and just kind of going there to wherever people are and just kind of hearing what their needs are or what they would like to see, along with just like programming and events. To go out to the community and just think about ways in which to get people like involved and kind of hear what people need and want. So
Yeah, and picking back on what you just said about hearing about what people need and want, and what Clarissa is asking us to do is to come up with something intentional that we can do, something that's, I think that, having some type of like gathering a sample of different ages, like, groups of ages of kids, and asking them, well, what do you need? What do you, because we're saying here, a lot of educators and parents are saying, oh, we think this is what they need, but what is it that they need? What are they identifying?
That they want.
Yeah.
we gotta hear them.
Yeah. So it's coming up with like a focus group.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you know what, Clarissa, also, to go to Darcel Clark, they have those modern programs, right? You got all our kids that's out there that's been incarcerated, and they come out and they think they know the jailhouse law, so let them, put them out there on stage, have a big event and let them, challenge Darcel, that group of people, you know what I'm saying, the district attorneys, and let them all combine, what they know about the laws, that our kids been inside. They're outside, sitting at the round table making these laws, but they're not talking with the kids, and they're, rearresting them and all. So that's how you can get them together. So you'll hear them, and then they'll hear you. They're listening to each other. So we can start. That's a start.
Can I just add one more thing to Miss Pat mentioned? There was a program that she supported where those who were recently incarcerated, they were able to get into sort of like transition programs to learn skills and obtain certifications. What if we were to actually host, OSHA 30 or other cert programs that 18 to 26 or, specific population to support them and being able to get onto a construction site, and then, just provide like a resource, a job resource.
Yeah, because we have so many people, all of these agencies and contractors that's coming in our community, and we can put our kids, make sure that, and listen.
And
like
they come
the
to our
section
board.
3, exactly.
Right.
Like section 3, listen, if you're gonna be in our community, we want you to use some of our kids.
That's right. Yes.
And do it like that. And I wanted to ask you a question also. I know years ago, they used to have the parent resources for the special needs, right? And they used to have the surrogate parents. The surrogate parents used to go out in the absence of the actual parents, like if they're working or they're unavailable, the surrogate parents went in their place. Do they still have that? If not, that's something we can bring back. I mean, they should bring back.
Because when I think about that, I automatically think about first and the privacy of everything, and how just the clearance of someone being able to get information about someone else's child, especially if IEPs and learning academic records are shared and what have you. But it doesn't mean that we can't explore it.
Totally. And include NYC. That again, back to that, might have. I definitely heard of like legal or like
internships.
An assistant.
You can get people that
like follows up with them, like how's the meeting, stuff like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I used to be a surrogate parent.
Oh,
years ago. I know about it.
Wow.
Years ago when I was much younger.
I do want to highlight though that with these programs, one thing we should also recognize is that some of the young adults, if we did have like a OSHA program, they can go in certain areas due to affiliations. Like even with my program, sometimes I have to conduct virtual appointments because they will tell me like, Miss, I cannot walk here. If I do, something will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so focusing on people that cannot, like maybe virtual programs, and also having mental health services. A lot of our kids have PTSD.
Yeah.
Like they have they've never been diagnosed with certain like mental health like problems, nor have they ever even when they are diagnosed, they had like bad interactions with them because they were diagnosed when they were in Horizon, Rikers. So oftentimes they have like a negative connotation of what mental health is and getting treatments, and they were given medications that probably made it worse for them. So like really bringing to light that a lot of people in our neighborhood have trauma, so
Coping skills.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of them use weed, drugs to cope, and we know that a lot of these drugs now are laced with fentanyl.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, so like giving them alternative to
Yep.
dealing with these issues.
Absolutely.
I want to continue the conversation, but I just want to close the agenda. And whoever wants to stay can feel free to stay and connect. Chair, would you like to be acknowledged?
So, to continue the conversation. So one of the things that we spoke about, and I brought this up to the DM last year, was a circle of safety. And why this came up was because as someone who also works at a charter network, a lot of our kids after school get involved in a lot of different things, or even in the school. And sometimes using the school space is not always the best place to resolve these issues. But also some schools have discipline policies, right? There's suspensions, there's in-house suspensions. And some of the things that, one of the things that we were thinking about was how do we bring in all of the service providers? Like we have IMCR, I'm not sure if people are aware of them, but they are an organization who do intervention work and mediation work between neighbors, between students. We have all of the violence intervention programs that are being highly funded right now to do the work, right? And so just thinking about if our youth and ed space and young adult space would serve as like holding all of these agencies accountable to show up when we have like chronic issues with students being suspended. Like, the last option I always think about is suspension, right? So like, what is the alternative? The alternative is, well, we're this one school, and I was thinking about doing it with Dream, right? Connect with all of the agencies. So we have this one student who, let's say, brought a knife to school. So the disciplinary action is serious. But instead of that, let's intervene and let's get these organizations together to figure out a plan for this student versus just saying we're going to suspend them, we're going to expel them, you're going to transfer out, because the problem doesn't get resolved. Right? So like thinking about like how do we
Restore it.
and that's a maybe dreaming big idea, but figuring out like how do we use spaces and really hold other agencies accountable to do the work that they're being funded for our young people. So I just wanted to add that as a radical thinking.
Definitely. That's great. But I have a question. So we went around and shared what we wanted to see. Now what?
I'm going to take these goals, the concrete needs that we came up with before, make a proposal to Mr. Jordan, and he'll send that off. As far as like everything you guys said, I think we can just keep the conversation going, and we can utilize the space. You guys can utilize the space however you want to. Send things to me, send things to the DM, but really there's no set way like or avenue you have to go through to do things. You can kind of come up with ideas, and try to get them off the ground. We're here to help in any way that we can. Though.
So if we're going to goal set in terms of like increasing participation, like that's been something that's said throughout the meeting, different points. What does that look like? Like
for me,
what
I said I can commit to bringing somebody here next meeting.
Then maybe next meeting I could bring someone as well.
And to tap on Joyce, I think where she's and I think I'm I'm hearing you is saying like, what are the action items that are coming out of this?
Yeah, because
right?
we can talk all
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
but
So I guess we could figure out what are 3 action items that should come out of today.
I thought the action items were gonna be those needs, which I'm gonna put in one proposal so that we can vote on at the.
So which is it?
Oh, yeah,
Say
that's
it. What is it? What's the first one?
creating a survey so we could gather all the
No, it wasn't
district
even.
needs.
It wasn't even that. It was supporting the South Bronx literacy program. A proposal for permit space. For community access for any events that we want to do. Personally, I had some sort of funding teachers program. I don't know. I might scratch that off. So if we just scratch that off, I'll go with funding youth employment.
Can we,
So I think we need which those are the larger goals, right? I think for the next meeting, we could say like, what are the action items for the next meeting,
Yeah,
right?
can we
So
take at least one of them and work on one of them and see what comes out of that one? You know, to turn it into an action, to see what comes about that one, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
You know, that way, we're working on something,
Right.
and we're putting it out there.
yeah, for sure. I like that idea. I also want to add like, so one action is something that like maybe we said something small could be that everybody commit to the one young person for the next meeting.
we're a
right?
young person.
One young person for the next meeting. But in order to bring that one young person, right, I always think about like young people saying like, all right, that's what's in it for you, but what's in it for me, right? So yes, we want our young people here at the table, but also what is in it for them? So we can commit to that one action item being everybody's gonna bring one person, but also then saying, what is that one person gonna get out of that meeting, right? So I don't know what that is, but if that's a goal that the team has, right?
No, they I mean, to start small, they just have to come to the space and see what it's about. Again, like I'm not gonna bite off more than I can chew. I'm gonna tell them, hey, you got to come, know who your community board members are, see how we can help you. Get the machine running. Just get oil the machine first. You can't just come out the
I could let them know. I could bring someone to let them know how important it is to join your community board, and share ideas and goals on what outside looking in. They feel like it's important from their community.
Yeah.
And I could definitely do that.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great with the idea of, and I've been sitting all day, so I'm starting to get
Yeah, that's a good
with the idea
idea.
of bringing someone and maybe saying like, all right, if we bring the young people, we talked about youth voice, right?
Yeah.
So what are we gonna get out of that? Like, what is it? We bring them and maybe there's a survey, right? Maybe, we bring them here, here's a survey.
Yeah.
What we want to know what you want from
What their
us,
concerns,
right? Maybe
what's
this is a
going on.
session for them to run. The
Yeah.
next one, our young people are going to guide us in the
How can we help
conversation,
you?
and of course, we can maybe the co-chairs can figure out like what those guidelines are for that meeting and what's the outline, to guide the conversation with the young people. But I think if we can say, yes, commit to bringing a young person, and then 2, making sure that at that meeting, the young person's voice is lifted and we survey what they need.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Good.
Yes. Thanks so much, Carol.
You can be heard.
Ms. Joyce?
You don't have to call me Miss Joyce. Joyce is just fine. That's not what I call Miss Pulpus is what I go by, but Joyce is just fine, okay, Zion? I was just gonna push you a bit in thinking about like when you say not to want to do too much, not to bite off too much, you can't chew or something. Like let's get greedy with it.
Exactly.
Because if we don't aim beyond what's reachable, then we won't go beyond where we need to go. And just thinking about like how radical we can be as a committee in order to really shift some things. I offer you that, and just know you're not by yourself. So when I'm talking about like what this looks like, I get shit done. So I want to support in getting things done and empowering other people to also join us in getting things done. So when we can enroll people in the work, it doesn't become as, stressful because we're not doing it alone. So that's why I was asking, like, well, what are we aiming towards? So we can enroll people, roll these businesses. Can Domino's donate some pizza, in the next meeting so that, the kids who we will bring will be able to eat while they share with us what's going on. And maybe they can serve as our first pilot group. And then from there, maybe we can empower them or encourage them to bring a friend to the next meeting. I'm just coming off the dome, but my whole point is just like, hey, let's push it.
So I know there was a goal for this committee to do a big thing about voter registration. So let's talk about that. That's because we have that between now and October to get that accomplished. So that we talked about. Right. So we talked about this committee is committed to register 100 young people by the deadline. Then how that's going to look is, do you guys do it in your schools? Do you do it in your night shift facilities? Do you do that on the Saturdays and on the line? How does that look? I mean, that's another goal between now and about 30 days before the next goal. How does that work out?
Register, at least for the national. We're thinking,
forever and a day, yeah.
Local elections.
Sure.
We have the June primary, but also.
So I don't know how if that's a goal.
It could be a goal of stretch.
And
I think that again, we can add month by month how many we want to register, and I think that's going to require a plan for the registration. But
we only have 1 month, and this month is almost over.
For the national election, we have until October 26th.
But the journey was reminding us that the primary mayoral and then
Clarissa,
so that's something
exactly.
So during our food distribution on Saturdays, right? I mean, the food is over here on this side, but over right here, we could have a table where we could, start handing out and registering people to vote.
Definitely. I also have never registered anyone to vote. So I don't know what
I did as a
Christine,
I did as a SYEP when I was like 14, 15 years old.
But also there may be,
maybe we could bring
there may be a
someone in.
way, right?
Yes.
I will say that from what I hear, getting people to register is really hard. Right? And I think,
Get the
but yes, I like that idea. If people, we have volunteers and people feel like very confident in helping people, register. I think that's an amazing idea in a way. I know that our community board and the DM is in the community has already started registering.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what the numbers are on that, but I know that we table at community events.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's a larger goal. And then we'll just have to figure out how to push it out. But I do want to say like a more attainable goal is bringing that young person and then surveying that young person and letting them guide the conversation for the next meeting. I don't know, Zion.
Absolutely, I'm in agreement with it. That was something I will commit to.
I think you guys had a survey prepared already.
We already have it prepared.
Okay. And can I think connected to that, is there any way that new committee members can view like past meeting minutes or past agenda? Just because I always like to, as Kamala says, like know the context, right? Of all that was, whatever she said, I think it'd be helpful to your point of just like.
Still on that way.
God.
Don't start letting it in.
Yeah, we said that
We're on camera.
So to answer your question, yes. So all of our committee meetings are available on the website. You can review all of them for Ready Summer, so you can always look on the website.
That's great, because it seems like there are some initiatives that are existing from that's continuing, just to get aware of like what's happening already, what's like coming up. Yeah. Just to know more about the goals that are already outstanding, so we can just get contextualized.
Sure.
For new members would be
And
helpful.
I'd be happy to chat it up with you if you have some more specific questions.
It's just a form. Voter registration.
Yeah.
It's a form, and you can also do it online. And then get this, you don't even have to have so you have to be obviously a citizen, but New York State DMV number, if you don't have that, your last 4 digits of your social security, and then there's also a box that you can check if you don't have neither one. If you don't know neither one, I guess they follow up with you.
Yeah.
But and I just looked it up while you asked.
No, yeah, we were just doing some stuff.
It looks simple.
Yeah.
Wanted to acknowledge Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah.
Might get my first
I just want to mention one thing. City of New York has a civic engagement desk designated, like Madam Chair mentioned, how you do the registration. And also our borough office, there is a people who is civil engagement, voter registration, all the resources who are doing that. So we can invite them to be the session like this. And then we get more resources. And then we make our DM as a point of contact. Tell us about the registration. How can we contribute that? That's all.
You see me get my head down, let's go away.
He's giving you more words.
There's a lot. Yes.
Is there anything from
So we have resources. You don't get
I
me?
was like, what? You look like I'm right. I'm like,
No, you ready to no. I didn't know. I'm sorry, this video. Stop. Don't text me during meeting. Shit. But it must have been the Beanie people. That's weird.
Wow.
They thought it was probably something that.
So we discovered that this is a like dry erase. So we had we had like the game plan.
Nice.
Oh shoot! I didn't recognize. Did we take
And
pictures
so
of
I
it?
text
Took pictures of it?
during the meeting. I'm like, where is?
All your work,
The
all the
game
work.
plan.
Did we take pictures of it?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's terrible.
Yeah, we had a Olivia Pope moment where we was on the move. We just started like really iron out some vision stuff going forward. Thank you, Mr. Sheik. So he says I got my work to do.
Thank you for the resources.
Chair, is there anything else?
I think
Anybody?
you know, I just, this is a space where I've only been the chair since November of last year, and we've only met, monthly. But I think this is a space where, education, it should be at the forefront of whatever we're doing. It should, this is what should drive the people. It's what should drive our work on every level, right? Because when we think about economic development, right? It goes back to education. When we think about anything, right? And how do we keep our people in our communities? It's making sure that they're getting the best education, making sure that they're getting opportunities with that education and stay in the community that they're from and not have to be displaced or leave because they don't have that. And so like this committee to me is like one of the most important and one that needs to like drive, there are too many schools, there are too many young people, there are too many gaps, and we got to make sure that we're holding people accountable. Like there's money that the city is giving to organizations that we have to be like, why are we still funding these organizations that are not doing this work, right? And why do we keep electing the same people to continue the legacy of funding the same organizations that are not doing the work? And so, we really have to dismantle. And I think, again, I'm going to say it, the community board is not, you might hear people say, oh, the community board is just a group of advisors. No, the community board, and we'll show at Community Board 1, how the community board is, like the DM always says, setting the standard. You can't come to us. This is the standard. And as education, like we need to set the bar for what education needs to be in our district, for what our young people are getting. So that's
Can I say something?
Important.
Clovis, you just brought up, so growing up, I had my son when I was 16. We didn't have stuff like this growing up. So my son, when he was 12, they tried to involve him in a gang. And for a long time, I tried everything. I tried to talk to the young people. Nobody was listening. I had no choice, I had to move. So I picked up my family and we moved to Pennsylvania, where I raised them. So they haven't been back since. So every time they come to the Bronx, it's like, what is this? And I don't know if I did a disservice to them, but at the time, I didn't have help. I didn't have nobody to turn to. I didn't have any resources. So I'm grateful.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
I appreciate you guys because you guys do awesome work. This is one of the reasons why I want to get involved because I see what's happening with the youth now and I don't want them to have to leave, you know, because my son is now an awesome grown man. But you guys won't know that. The people in the Bronx won't know that because now he's upstate.
Somebody else got that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Somebody else benefit from that.
Yeah.
Well, Pennsylvania needs it.
Yeah, right.
That's where his mission is.
Wow, thank you for that. That's real.
Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I, Patricia Simpson, will do a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I, Claudia Rahman, seconded.
Is there any discussion on the meeting? Ladies and gentlemen, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.
Good meeting.
Thank you. Great. So great. Great.